All right, so what we're going to work on next is the text in the neck of the guitar. So let's turn our graphic back on as our backdrop just so we can see what we want. So what we want to do is place text in here. We want to shrink this size. All right, so we're just going to go up to our text tool here, and you're going to use just the regular type tool. And I'm just going to place a box around this. As long as I get it close, you can see it drops text in there, and now I can just type in the text I want. So it can be any band name you want or some other text. So you can make this to be whatever you'd like it to be. So I'm just going to type in Leonard Skinner, and now we're going to work and adjust the font. Now, just to make it easier to see, I'm going to use this tool, the selection tool. And I'm just going to left click on the path just to drag it up a little bit so that I can see it as I'm working on it. All right. And also I'm going to use my Alt key and roll my wheel to zoom in a little tighter so I can get a little better look at this. All right. So we want to make sure we spelt it right. So you can see here I missed my Y in Leonard. So I'm just going to click on my text tool, put my cursor between the N and the R, and it's got the flashing cursor, so that I can enter in my Y. So we just want to make sure you spell it right because we're going to convert these to outlines. And once you do that, and if you got any spelling mistakes, you got to go back and fix it. So it's kind of hard to go back and fix. You got to start over. All right, so just making sure that we're doing it, making sure the text is correct. Now, if you select all the text, I'm just left clicking and dragging my cursor through here, going to properties. And over in properties, I can choose the font I want. So I want to choose a different font. I'm going to come down here and let's see. Let's look at one that looks a little bit fancier. So I'm going to scroll down and see a different font here. I think there's one here called Georgia. Yeah, that one looks like pretty close to what I'm looking for. And now I can adjust the size. So maybe I go up to, you can see 36 is too big. Let's make it, let's try 26. So 26 gives me the spacing, but it's not giving me the height I want, but that's not a problem. I'm gonna show you how to fix that in a second. So you can play with this, the font, the spacing over here. You know, if I go to 0, it's pretty tight. If I maybe make it 50, it spreads it out a little bit, okay? So again, you can play with this, get it to look the way you want. So then, what I'm going to do is come down here and click on Create Outlines. So when I create outlines, you can see that it basically creates an outline of the font. So it converts this to shapes, and it's no longer text. So what I can do here is I can stretch this guy down to make it a little bit larger, right? So if we do that, so what I'm going to do here is just pick on the text anywhere. You can see you can move it down and place it in here. Now I want to skew this end. So to skew this end, to make it smaller, we're going to use an effect. The effect is going to be a warp, and it's going to be a flag warp. So you can see what it does, by default, it kind of warps it into like a flag pattern. But the bend here, we're going to do is we're going to change this, set it to 0. So I'm just going to move my cursor over here to 0. And then I'm going to come in here and change the vertical, or the horizontal. So if I change the horizontal here, you can see that it's skewing this side larger and this side smaller. So I can come down here and make it a little bit, you know, the right size that I want. And then when I click OK, again, you can see let's move it up over here. You can see that it's shaped pretty good. Now I can make it larger or smaller depending on how much more adjustment I want. So now I'm just going to drop this in here. And if I change this anchor, you can see that I can even drag it out a little bit. So now that places the text the way that I want with the warp. Let's go ahead and move it over a little bit so it's not in our text. And use my Alt and roll my wheel. And now you can see that I've got the text in there and that's shaping up. So next we'll work on making this shape, and then we'll do these texts and the eagle or the bird last.